Hey Bodacious Beast, welcome back to my channel. My name is ScottyAllenDay. Today is a doozy of a video. I got some really good rock and roll history for you guys today, and I hope you guys will sit back and enjoy it, or just run it like a podcast and just listen to what I've got. I've done a lot of work with this. This is definitely going to be a landmark that's going to be on my bucket list to be able to go and visit someday. Hopefully to be able to listen, go and enjoy a concert at. Well, one of them. So, I put on a bandana today in the spirit of psychedelic rock, because this is a big heavy hitter in the psychedelic rock industry. So, these two iconic theaters started their lives in two completely different venues, completely different venues, to become a catalyst, or depending on how you look at it, rocket fuel for the psychedelic rock market. One theater was in San Francisco and the other one was in New York City. It shared the same name, shared the same music during the late 60s and early 70s. The Fillmore theaters, which was the name of the theaters, are deeply embedded in rock and roll history as the unofficial home for psychedelic rock and roll. Let's start with the Fillmore West, located in San Francisco. It was built in 1918. This building housed a dance academy from its start until it transformed into a roller skating rink. The building was later purchased by a man named Charles Sullivan. He was a successful African-American businessman. As a matter of fact, the research I've done, he was the most successful African-American businessman in San Francisco at that time. He opened up the Fillmore Theater in 1954, and then later on, a promoter by the name of Robert Graham teamed up with Sullivan and started booking live band venues at this location. They later hired a new pioneer in the rock and roll industry that would help ignite rock and roll, and he was a lighting and sound engineer by the name of Danny Williams. His lighting technology you still see in music concerts today. The strobes, the film projections, the slides, a lot of the different light parts of the light shows. Most of these setups used back then is still used today, only they're more modernized. They also have digital upgrades. Most roadies that rigged shows in the late 70s, 80s, and late 70s to the 80s and the 90s, even today, learned these methods and applied them to both rock and roll and country music traveling shows. Now let's talk a little bit about this, because this is my expertise when I worked as a roadie, but I'm going to be a little bit brief about it because I wanted to go back and do some more work on Danny Williams. I personally met him when I was out on the road, and he was so knowledgeable about what was going on. He helped invent quick hookups. He invented the cams to be able to help put things together. But the only problem with the lighting that we had over there was the light housing would get so hot that you could actually cook bacon on it. You could actually make bacon and eggs on a light housing, because they were pretty much made of steel at that time. Like galvanized metal. The kind of stuff that you see on let's say, a chain link fence to metal pole. Now you imagine putting a heat lamp inside of there. And it would get so hot that you could actually cook breakfast on one of those housings. So later on, as it modernized and the lights became cooler, you could be able to do a lot of different things. And if one of these lights went out on stage, which they frequently did, And because of how hot they were, it was next to impossible to be able to change while you were in the air. You would have to go over, you'd have to disconnect and bypass, and then you'd have to wait for about 15 minutes for it to cool down before you could be able to change the light or change the housing. It's the same thing with the amps. They would get so hot that you would have to disconnect, reroute, and let it cool down before you could be able to change it out. Just wanted to throw a little bit of that in there because this was a lot that had to do with Danny Williams, and it had a lot to do with the early roadie pioneers that I'm going to probably put together different videos on, or combine them together like I am with this Fillmore Theater. So let's get back to the, I got a little bit off subject because, you know, a lot of this is my passion. I'm still developing my niche. I'm still developing how I'm doing these videos, and just bear with me because I'm having a ball with this. So let's get back to my notes on where am I right now. And after Charles Sullivan passed, Robert Graham purchased the Fillmore, as well as the Village Theater, which was owned by Lowe's Movie Complex, in Brooklyn, New York, in about 1966-65. I can't find the exact date, but 1968 was when it opened. The Village House was also known as the Commodore Theater in 1922 when it started its life as a Jewish Yiddish theater. A Yiddish theater is kind of like a Jewish vaudeville style theater, and it would have live music, it would have comedy, it would have sketch type acts, just about daily. It was kind of like a live TV show with set programming. It'd be like you're opening up a TV guide and you're following what the TV guide says, or you go onto your guide on the TV and it shows that one strip. It's pretty much what a vaudeville style theater, and it was aimed towards the Jewish community. Graham then, let me change my notes over. Just so much information, it's hard to be able to memorize all this. He renamed the theater to the Fillmore East. Now, with both theaters set up for rock and roll bands, for rock and jazz bands, the Fillmore West in San Francisco had 1,300 seats. Now imagine 1,300 seats. And the Fillmore West in Brooklyn had 2,700 seats. Both theaters now became a coast-to-coast engine for rock and roll with a double bill 3-act set. Now this means it's 2 shows a day with 3 bands multiple times per week. This was the big thing at that time. And imagine 1,200 seats, which is probably about the average size of a high school football stadium that has the bleachers on one side, the smaller set on the other. That's about 1,300 feet, about 1,300 seats. I would say maybe double that would be about the amount of seats that would be in there for about 1,300, and then quadruple that for 27. Both theaters became a coast-to-coast engine for psychedelic rock and roll. The Grateful Dead played 51 shows at the Fillmore East, and numerous ones on the West Coast. I would name all the bands, but because of the fact that the Fillmore in San Francisco had so many acts that were booked as psychedelic rock, I would almost say that the Fillmore in San Francisco was the home, the unofficial home for psychedelic rock and roll. This lasted for about 3+ years between 1968 and 1971. You know what? Talk about a magic carpet ride. After 1971, the Fillmore East was demolished and turned into a bank with apartments. Now, that's kind of sad because that's a huge piece of rock and roll history there that we'll never be able to see. And that was the largest of both theaters. The Fillmore West still stands today, booking bands in San Francisco, and is now owned by Live Nation. Live Nation is the current catalyst, or the current booking agent for your large concerts now. I guess the fate of these theaters was the aftermath of Woodstock in '69, as the rock bands became the hottest shows on earth. And they needed bigger stadiums and coliseums to perform because the demands to see these bands skyrocketed. So in other words, they just after Woodstock, these small theaters, these small venues that started rock and roll exploded. You couldn't put enough people inside the walls. It'd be kind of like watching a Jerry Lee Lewis movie, where he goes in to play with Chuck Berry close to the end, and the theater's packed so full of people that the walls just literally were getting ready to burst. They had to have law enforcement come and keep people out because they couldn't, because the theater was over capacity. So that's my video for today. I've really put a lot of work into this. It's sitting inside of my in my archives now, and I'm going to work even harder to be able to build on this, because this is just, I mean, when I played around with my rock and roll cards that I opened up, and I saw the Fillmore in there, and I saw the Fillmore Auditorium, or the new old Fillmore. All of these are the same one with the Fillmore West. And I saw the amount of posters that came out, and it just blew my mind how big of a venue this theater actually was. I never knew about it, but now it's on my bucket list to where I can be able to actually go and walk into there. And with Grateful Dead playing 51 concerts there, I could imagine that in between the walls somewhere, Jerry Garcia has a stash sitting there, a weed stash in there somewhere. But nobody would know. Just the walls of psychedelic rock. It's iconic. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about the video. If you're new here, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss another video. I've got a lot more exciting content coming up, and I'm really excited about all the stuff that I'm learning about rock history. And I'm learning a lot of stuff about country music history as well, and I'm going to start implementing that into my videos. But I'm going to get started, I just want to get started with the base of rock and roll before I start digging into country, because there's so much information that I'm learning. Like I said, drop me a comment in the comment section below if you know of an iconic theater that played a big part in music history, whether it's overseas or in the US. I'll do my research, and if I like it, I'll put it up on a video, and I'll probably even try to give you a credit, maybe a name, shout out. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and like always, keep on rocking.